show covering everything that's hot and new and interesting, whether it's on the gaming side, technology side, or just introducing the show, which I realize we never do.
We did last week.
Did you? Oh, okay.
Oh, wait, introducing the show as in, like, this is the WAN show?
Yeah, like what exactly are you watching right now, and why would you possibly care about it? Is sort of an important thing, but yeah, there you go. So guys, we have a ton of, like, just completely ridiculously crazy topics this week. Extremely excited about them. We have our special guest, Austin Evans, aka Duncan33303 on YouTube. If you've never heard of him before, then go check him out, because he's a sexy beast, and he's going to be joining us in about 25 minutes on the show to talk. We hope. Okay, he just fried the outlet that powers his computer, so I guess he's probably looking for an extension cord right now. But, and I'll be quoted on this, no self-respecting geek should ever be without a reasonably nearby extension cord. So, Austin, you better have one. So we're going to have him on as a guest. He was with me in Hawaii. So yeah, he says all should be good now. Had to switch to extension cables. Yeah, there you go, man. So he was with me in Hawaii and saw all of the demonstrations and presentations, the live one, which everyone saw, and the NDA one, which we cannot talk about. AMD won't even tell us what the NDA date is for the NDA. It's like just to be determined. Beast. So we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about the Steam triple threat announcements. Go!
Boom. Okay, so the first one was SteamOS, which was, in my opinion, the biggest one, because the next one people kind of already knew, but SteamOS is a Linux platform that Steam is kind of editing to themselves. We'll go into that in more depth later. And then Steam Machines, which are the Steam box that people were talking about forever. There's more information about that. And then a Steam controller that doesn't have thumbsticks. It has touchpad.
A small head explosion.
Yeah.
I mean, my head's exploding, but not necessarily for the reasons that the other two made my head explode. Yeah. Other things that did make my head explode, though, Nvidia has come out and said, look, we're going to give better support to Linux, and that is obviously a huge deal, and who knows, maybe slightly related to that. More on that. We're teasing the topics. You know, we can't tell you everything right now. And the Chaos Computer Club has broken the fingerprint scanner on the iPhone 5S already, but I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit when we're discussing this, because I don't necessarily think that's that big of a deal. So without further ado, here's the intro and a short word from our sponsors. Guys, this episode is brought to you by Squarespace.com. Squarespace is the easy way to create a beautiful, functional website for your organization, blog, online store, or more. Visit Squarespace.com to get a free, fully functional trial and use offer code Linus9 to get 20% off your first purchase, only in September.
Hotspot Shield is also bringing you this episode, and it's a very simple and easy way to set up a VPN for your networks. If you have to get around certain things, you can access your email or something when you're on a free open Wi-Fi hotspot, or if you just want extra security, it's very simple and easy.
Not only that, but if you're on iOS, it actually does support compressing the data when you're browsing the web, so you will not use as much of your mobile data plan when you're on the go. And without further ado, let's just jump right into our first topic, which isn't one that we teased. Surface Pro 2. It's a thing.
It's a thing, and it's more of an interesting thing than I think the original one was, because they fixed a lot of those kind of glaring problems. The battery life is way better. Color accuracy is better on the screen, which is interesting, but it already had a pretty good screen.
Yeah, it was okay. I mean, the thing to me that's actually more interesting here is not only Surface 2 is coming and has a more color accurate screen, but or rather Surface Pro 2. Surface 2, which I guess they would call Surface RT2 if Surface RT didn't have such a terrible, terrible reputation, is also coming and is also getting a 1080p screen upgrade.
Okay,
so
cool.
Now both Surface Pro 2 and Surface 2, the RT version, which makes the naming very confusing, are going to have 1080p screens. There's a variety of other improvements. So guys, the original article here is from Engadget, but I think the biggest ones are going to be, well, Haswell is huge for Surface Pro 2. I mean, we're looking at, I think they're quoting double digits better performance, so 20 to 30% better performance, something along those lines, and a 75% better battery.
Even when Surface Pro first launched, we both talked about we're interested in this one because it's an interesting product, but we're interested in when it comes out with Haswell.
Yes.
We said that like way back, so now that's here, and that's actually really cool.
And I mean, this is part of the, well, what this does is, I guess it validates Intel's approach with Haswell, where they came out and they said, look, it's, well, they didn't come out and say it, but it was pretty obvious. This is not an enthusiast desktop gaming CPU. That's not what this is for. What this is for is it's for energy efficiency, particularly making it more scalable down to much smaller form factors. So Microsoft has made some other improvements to the device as well. So for example, there's a new power cover that actually improves battery life by 2.5 times. So if we do some quick math here, original Surface was good for sort of 3.5 to 4.5 hours of battery, which is not enough for a tablet. So 75% better puts us around 6.5 hours battery, and then the 2.5 times would put us around 15 to 18 hours of battery, like 15, 16 hours of battery. Now we're talking.
Yeah, that gets a lot better.
Now we're talking. This is a productivity device, because to me, that was the appeal of Surface RT, for that matter, and Surface, was that now all of a sudden it's a mobile device that is genuinely portable and tablety, but also genuinely productive. And I mean, here's the thing though, is actually, this isn't really on our topics, but I want to discuss this. So, okay, Surface Pro 2. Okay, it's got better battery life. Yep. It's got an okay screen. The new type cover, which is the cover that sits on it that actually has a tactile keyboard, so not the touch cover, which was just touch sensitive, is backlit now
and is slightly thinner.
And is slightly thinner. So there's all these things, but realistically, if you wanted something that was in between a tablet and a laptop, nowadays, do you just pick up a convertible? So something like this, where you flip the screen around, boom. If you really wanted a Windows 8 tablet, now you have one.
And like, there is situations where a tablet would be better. If you want to be able to walk around,
I've used this like 4 times now. Since the last time I talked about this, when I created a video before I left, I think I said 3 times, and I used it like this once on my trip. I was like watching Netflix videos, and I put it up like this, because that was slightly more convenient in that scenario.
Yeah, personally, I don't really care, but I have seen, like, I used to work in a warehousey type thing, and one of the guys bought one of those old HP spin around.
They can't see your hands when you put them down there.
There we go. Old HP laptops where you could take the screen and spin it around like this.
That terrible little hinge in the middle?
The single hinge in the middle, yeah. Ooh. He'd have one of those that he could walk down and write notes down.
Okay.
Because that was better for him. So maybe it's not the best use case for you or me, I wouldn't care. But it might be a better use case for some people out there.
And the Pro 2 still has the stylus, whereas the Surface 2 does not come with a stylus. I mean, the pricing is okay. Hold on, let's finish talking about it a little bit more. So they've improved the kickstand. So the kickstand, I actually liked the kickstand, because their whole thing with kickstand was that they wanted it to feel like a car door, was what they compared it to. You know, shook, shook. Now it has 2 settings. So instead of being stuck at the one angle, and only one angle, now you can actually adjust it to a couple different angles. I mean, this is a problem that not only plagued Surface Pro, but also other convertibles. Like, I've actually grown to really like Dell's implementation of their convertible tablet notebook thing. Convertible Ultrabook, I guess that's what it's called. Yeah. Sorry for anyone at Intel who's watching. It's not a tablet. It's not a notebook. It's an Ultrabook. So convertible Ultrabook, I mean, but we have a Sony Vaio Duo 13. Did you check that thing out?
No.
It's only one angle. The electronics are actually exposed when the hinge is open.
Okay.
It doesn't close, so that the glass of the screen can go down on top of the keyboard and it can be protected on both sides. The screen stays up even when you close it. So it's just a tablet, or just a tablet that's propped up. Like, to me, that's not really convertible.
Yeah, I like that style more, I think.
This feels better to me, or something like the Lenovo Yoga, where it has the 360 degree hinge. So I mean, that's sort of my take. Is Do you want to go Surface 2 where you get the thinner form factor, because it really is?
Yeah.
You're getting great battery life out of it if you go with something like a battery cover. Or do you want the slightly bulkier but potentially more versatile? I mean, this is going to have a better keyboard than even the type cover. It comes down to what you want to choose, and I mean, I think if you put Surface Pro in the context of pricing it compared to a convertible Ultrabook, it starts to get more appealing.
Yeah, if you compare it to other tablets, not so much.
So at $899 for a 64 gig, 4 gig RAM version, and it scales up to, I think, 512 and 8 gig, if I recall correctly. Don't quote me on that, though. So that starts at $900. That is an extremely expensive 64 gig tablet, but it comes with a 1.6 gigahertz Core i5 Haswell processor in it, which makes it dramatically more powerful than your other tablet.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, if you look at something like this, or something like an Aspire S7 or a super slim notebook, you're paying over $1,000 for sure, but then it probably doesn't come in such a low spec config. So it comes down to your needs, but Surface Pro 2 is, to me, a really important step because Surface Pro made no sense due to its low battery life. Surface Pro 2, now we could actually go, okay, yeah, there's a scenario for this.
Yeah.
There's a person that this product fits with. So that makes me feel a lot better about the direction Microsoft's heading in terms of product. I mean, the funny thing is Apple's the only one that ever really does it, where they launch a product, MacBook Air, iPad, iPhone. They launch a product that's actually ready for prime time. Everyone else seems to be content to kind of go, let's create like a V0.5, Samsung Galaxy S.
Yeah.
The first one sucked.
Yeah. And like this, when it came out, we knew that the good one was going to be Haswell.
We knew Haswell was coming in like 8 months or 9 months or however many, like it was months, not years.
Yeah.
So we knew Haswell was going to be more power efficient. We knew that this product was a stopgap, like let's get something out there, even though Microsoft must have known that it didn't make the most sense in the world. So it's like we let everyone else get away with this. Whether it's, I mean, the original ASUS ZenBook was terrible. The touchpad was broken on it.
Yeah.
But we let them get away with it. So let's give Microsoft sort of the benefit of the doubt here. Let's let them get away with this one. Surface 2 is interesting as well. So it gets the 1080p screen upgrade. It's only $450, which is really tablet priced. And it comes with a Tegra 4 processor. So based on my experience with Tegra 4 so far,
beast. Yeah.
Loving it. Oh, I forgot to mention Surface Pro 2 supports 4K output.
Yeah, 4K, but
at 30 hertz or 24 hertz or whatever.
Yeah.
So Surface 2 is interesting if you're willing to deal with the whole, Surface RT or Windows RT thing. To me, the most offensive thing about like Metro apps or modern UI apps is that it just feels like not a lot of thought was put into some of them. Like, for example, the default photo viewer on Windows 8 is just one of the worst experiences you could possibly have. So here, I'm gonna open something, sort of open with. And I could share my screen with you, but I'm not going to. So I'm opening with the Photos app, and I just want to show you guys, like, I still can't figure out, like, how to get to all the other pictures that are in this folder. Like, they're just not here. And like, how do I control it? Like, so I can rotate, delete, crop, and set as, and like do a slideshow. Well, it's just not like how do I control it with the mouse? Can I? There's like little tiny buttons over here that, like, it just feels like, okay, this was meant to be used one way, and that is
as like a picture frame, basically.
Yeah, as like a photo frame. And like, okay, oh yeah, and when you get here, it's like, okay, well, like, now what? Now can I, so I have to swipe it over here, I have to use their multitasking UI here. Using this screen with a mouse and keyboard is redonkulous. It's not. It comes down to my complaints about Windows 8 in general, and I really don't feel like 8.1 has really addressed any of them.
It fixed a few things, but like...
Yeah, but I'm still not that happy.
That's why it's 0.1. They didn't really go that far.
Alright, so speaking of things that didn't go that far, Apple's efforts to make their new phone have, the most advanced touch identification technology ever. So this is from the Chaos Computer Club, ccc.de. The biometrics hacking team has broken their security in 2 days.
And like a large part of that, from what I could glean from the article, a large part of that was like they probably didn't get it on the exact first day, and like they probably didn't work that hard. Like it was not hard for them to do.
So you know what? I just realized I never changed the Twitch thing. WAN show now, tech and news. I should just like update that on the whole Twitch thing. So I want to play for you guys just a little bit. We're not going to watch the whole thing again, but we watched this video back when I. Oh no, this is a different video.
This is them breaking it.
Okay, this is their video. So I'm just going to turn the sound off. It's only about a minute long, but basically it's similar to the Mythbusters.
Well, he doesn't show like the creation and everything, but
Yeah.
what he shows here is he's putting in his fingerprint with his pointer finger, and then what he does is he puts the printed fingerprint onto his middle finger and then logs in with his middle finger. That
Right.
should not work. You have unique fingerprints on each one of your fingers.
Right. So basically, what so what they did in the MythBusters episode was they just created like fake finger skins that
Yeah,
worked.
and that's what they did here.
And then they even went as far as to just use like a piece of plastic and then just lick it and put that on there. And well,
I think they just printed one out and then cut the piece of paper and
Yeah.
licked the piece of paper and
they
put it
did that one. So basically, what we've determined here, and what the Chaos Computer Club is saying is like, have they done anything here in terms of, you know, subdermal scanning and all the stuff that they're talking about? It looks like it's just a higher resolution fingerprint scanner,
Yeah.
which isn't a bad thing.
No, but it's not as cool as they tried to make it sound.
I mean, it's one of those. Okay, here, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to say it doesn't matter
What?
because it's totally irrelevant. Unless you are okay, it's irrelevant to you and it's irrelevant to me. It might not be irrelevant to the President of the United States of America,
Yeah.
for example.
Yeah.
Someone where, yes.
That's why I've actually put in here, are we getting one? It would be cool to see, because I would like to actually have a video.
Yeah,
where
I'll buy one.
Okay.
Yeah,
where
I'm going to buy one.
I want to try and have it where I have to try and steal your fingerprint somehow and then create one and log into your phone.
Sure.
Because I would like to see how easy it is.
Our new camera's here. So Diesel's going to drop it off with me on Saturday, so I can play around with it a little bit. So what I'm thinking is maybe I just either with your phone or with that camera.
Either way, yeah.
You should try to blog the process.
Yeah.
And now that I'm aware of it, just like on the Mythbusters thing, I'll try not to leave
Sure.
clean fingerprints all over the place.
Because if you're someone that's that worried, you should be actively trying not to leave clean fingerprints on.
Exactly. So let's find out if he can actually legit break it, and that'll be a really fun experiment. But I mean,
I definitely hear where you're coming from. The Chaos Computer Club is basically saying that fingerprint biometrics and a few other different types of biometrics are just not as secure as they are put out to be. So
Yes.
people are assuming no one's going to be able to get this unless they have my finger. And
Yeah.
that's not true. That's what they're trying to say.
and that is a really good message, because while I still don't think it matters, because if you're worried about your little brother breaking into your phone and texting your friends, you know, the pictures of you that you hide somewhere else, but he figured out where they are because he's the creepiest little brother ever. That's disgusting. So if you're worried about something like that, I think it's enough.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're worried about, you know, critical company data, you work for a multi-bajillion-dollar company, a pass phrase is still the way to go.
Yeah.
So that is like a nice long string of, it doesn't have to be random characters. It can be, you know, I really love my son and wife, you know, heart. That is a very strong password.
It is.
So there you go, guys. Our guest is going to be joining us in about 5 minutes. So why don't we do a quick Twitter blitz, guys? Hit us up with any questions, whether it's about my trip to Hawaii, whether it's about, you know, I know there were a lot of questions about Slick's co-host last week. So if you have any clarifying questions, yes, he is the firefighter from the IO Safe video. So I will say that much. And no, that was not a costume. He is a legit firefighter. You saw in the video, he was like in the fire.
Yeah.
They don't let just anyone do that. We were being very closely supervised.
He was grabbing pallets that were on fire and putting them on top of the NAS for us.
Yeah, so let's just let's go ahead and hit that. Wow, 52 interactions. All right. Sept, NFF12 or NFP? You know what? I'm behind the mic today, so I'm going to get you to answer these. So
I would go NFF. Wait, what? Would 140 millimeter be better for a cooler rig? Yeah. 140 millimeter would be better, but then you're dealing with 120 millimeter fans in the question, but I would say NFF12s.
yeah, NFF12s are just kind of the boss.
Yeah, NFF12s are pretty sweet.
We ordered an XA20 from Canon, something that I can use.
But that is not the one we're currently on. We just aren't very good at setting it up. That's why it looks different.
Yeah, we're on the FS700 right now. News on the cat, unfortunately, no. I set up some food and water and a little bed for him in my garage when I went away, and I left the door open, but like with tires barricading it because we were leaving our back door open and a coyote came into our house and ate all the cat's food and all our cereal and stuff. So anyway, so I left that for him, and then I left my iPhone set up with a time lapse, like taking a picture every minute of the food, and Rocket didn't come back for it. No one came back for it, so I think he's gone.
Although at the same time, like while it totally sucks for the people that are freaking out, Rocket's kind of the biggest badass of a cat I've ever met in my life. So he's probably doing okay for himself.
He might be out there. He might be okay. He's super careful. He's super cautious. And
I hope he's okay.
Yeah, I really hope he's okay. I hope someone stole him. That's what I hope for at this point.
Yeah, to be honest.
You know, I hope someone has him and he's safe. That's all I really want now. What do you think of GTA 5 having microtransactions? I think it's necessary. I mean, you look at how much was spent on the development, and you can kind of go, oh, well, they spent 250 million, and they made it back in hours, or whatever you might want to say about it. But they have to be profitable enough for when they're not making GTA 5 and when they're developing GTA 6.
And all the lapse time in between when they're not actually developing anything and they still have to pay employees and research and blah, blah, blah.
Or when they're working on bug fixes or improving the content that's within GTA 5 or whatever else they want to work on. Maybe, who knows? Maybe they want to try something that's not GTA.
They do. They make stuff
I know that.
Yeah.
But what if they want to try something that's not GTA, that they don't have any previous revenue to draw upon? Companies have to make money.
Yeah.
They have to make money. You don't have to buy in-game items.
I didn't know that GTA was going to have microtransactions.
Oh.
Really, to be completely honest.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do.
I don't know what they would. I don't know what they would have that would be microtransactions. I'm not surprised.
Okay, used to be something.
Oh yeah.
Okay, well.
Oh, GTA Online does.
GTA Online has microtransactions. That makes a lot more sense.
That makes so much more sense.
That makes so much more sense. GTA Online, again, well, everything I said before, GTA Online.
Yeah, same thing.
And even more so, because when you actually have servers that you're running and maintaining and you're continuing to develop new content, which was a promise that they have for GTA Online, then what else are you going to do? I prefer microtransactions to monthly subscriptions. I'll say that.
Do you prefer the free-to-play microtransaction style?
Not necessarily.
So you prefer a single upfront cost with microtransactions after that?
I think that's my preferred choice. Yeah. Your guess on the price of R9 290X? You know what? That's a very fair question because I don't know, so I can talk about it. My guess would be pretty much what you're saying. I would be surprised if they come in under $599 though. Because based on the rumored performance, which you can go out and find, because I'm not going to talk about that because I've seen performance. Based on the rumored performance and how it'll line up, I think that they could price it kind of at whatever they wanted to based on the current landscape. And I suspect someone like Nvidia is probably kind of sitting there waiting for them to show their hand. And we're going to see some aggressive price movements over the next little bit, and then things are going to settle in until Maxwell launches in Q1.
Yeah.
How do I install a program when I do a clean install of Windows 8? I don't care what I have to do, I just want it done?
Huh?
I'm not sure. Sorry.
Ninite. Not sure what the question is, but Ninite.
Ninite.com. N-I-N-I-T-E. Is it worth the money if I can get a 690 for the same money? I don't know, man.
Let's wait until...
Yeah, why don't we wait and see what the benchmarks look like? Got a sound problem. Volume decreases randomly even if I disable the Windows communication thing. I think there's a global setting for that. That's not just Windows communication. You might want to go check into that. Apparently I look like Michael Bolton.
Okay.
Sorry to hear that. Do you want to fire up our call with Austin? Because he's going to be joining us hopefully in about 1 minute here. So we're really excited about that. All right, nice seeing you guys live. Great job on the show. Thank you. Was watching Tech Syndicate. Logan's a good guy. I have no problem telling people watch Tech Syndicate because, yeah, he's a good guy. I was sorry he wasn't able to be at the GPU 14 event from AMD. I'm not sure if he got an invite or maybe they missed him, but I mentioned him while I was there, so hopefully it was just an oversight and it doesn't happen again or he was busy or something. Any details on the mysterious 290? I can say that it's mysterious. I can say that it's, if there was an R9 290 non-X, that it would probably be closely related to a 290X. What do you think about the new Steam controller? More on this later.
Yeah. We're ready to go whenever.
Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we do like a couple more Twitter Blitz questions here? GTA, what game are you waiting for? Star Citizen. If you guys check out my vlogs from the AMD event, okay, I gotta talk about this for like a minute or so. And you know what? We'll probably bring Austin on in the middle of it because he was filming my fangirl moment.
Yeah, I know.
So, okay, guys, I met Chris Roberts, who is the guy behind Star Citizen, so formerly of Wing Commander and Freelancer, which is one of my favorite games ever, but unfortunately didn't get any kind of sequel or anything, but I have it from him. From Chris. I get to call him Chris now. Anyway, I have it from
not fair.
I have it from Chris, and he's like, "Yeah, I mean, you could see this as a spiritual successor to Freelancer." I'm like, "That's all I need to hear, man." And that $250 I dropped on my Constellation is totally worth it. He pulled out like the biggest surprise for me of the conference. Well, okay, no, Mantle was probably the biggest thing. Okay, the second biggest thing of the entire AMD event, which was the hangar module was updated so you could walk up into the turret. So I got to hear him on stage talking about the turret, and you know what? The craziest thing about it, and let's go ahead and let's bring Austin in now, was the craziest thing about it is he live? Can I listen to him? Austin, are you there?
Yeah, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. Is my audio okay? I had a few technical issues when I was getting set up earlier.
We turned you up a bit just now, so it should be good, but okay, so where was I going with this? The turret was amazing, and oh yeah, so after the show, I walked up to him, and if you haven't watched the vlog already, then you don't know this already, and I was like about to introduce myself, and he's just like, "Oh yeah, I've watched your videos." I'm like, that made my month at least. So that was super exciting. So Austin, welcome to the show. Can you take maybe a couple minutes here and introduce yourself for those members of our audience who don't already know who you are?
Yeah, definitely. So my name is Austin. I do tech videos kind of like Mr. Linus here, although probably more of the boring kind of stuff like phones and tablets and that kind of stuff. But I also do PC gaming, and obviously we were both at the AMD event actually just yesterday. So yeah.
All right, so guys, you can find him at youtube.com/Austin Evans or youtube.com/Duncan33303. The old link does still work. You know what? I think I don't know if this is in our list of topics that I wanted to discuss with you, but I want to kick this off because you and I spent quite a bit of time talking about this on the trip. Speaking of being able to find you at Duncan33303 or Austin Evans, the amount of integration that Google is moving forward with between YouTube and Google Plus. Go.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna throw this one at me, huh?
Yeah, because you had some really interesting thoughts on this, so let's hear it.
Yeah, so it was kind of interesting because we were obviously out in Hawaii. We were actually on a hike, so I was trying to like find data because I just like checked my tweets and like, by the way, YouTube comments are gone. It's all Google Plus now. We were both like, what, huh? So basically, the idea here, if you guys haven't seen, is that Google Plus has always kind of been, at least for the last couple of years, has always been kind of on a collision course with YouTube. So Google's always trying to, integrate them more. I mean, it started with little things, and now it's kind of getting on to bigger things. Like, for example, how I was able to change my name is I was able to link it with my Google Plus, which now, instead of seeing Duncan33303 on my channel, it's Austin Evans. And now they're just kind of taking that a next step further with the Google Plus comments. So I don't think it's a too controversial thing to say that the comments on YouTube have never really been all that great.
Yep, I mean, I think one of the problems I brought up with you particularly was that I really hated the way that I would reply to a comment. Someone says something like, "Oh, Linus, you got the spec wrong," and I'd say, well, no, actually, depending on whatever, this is how it is, and it would get like 150 thumbs up, so it should in theory sit at the top, but because of their decay algorithm and because of just YouTube being YouTube, it would often get lost and it would just fall away, and so we'd end up with a ton of the same comment about something that the uploader has already addressed. So maybe walk through some of the changes that they're making to make the comments not only friendlier but also better for the uploaders themselves.
Well, I would, but the thing is, I actually haven't been able to test them yet. I've just, pretty much all I know so far is just what they've kind of announced yet. It's not even coming out for another couple months, right?
Yeah, not to the end of year, I think.
End of year, yeah. So, I mean, the big thing is that they're trying to increase. Now, actually, I'm gonna sound dumb here. Do you actually have to use your real name? Because I don't actually know that part.
No,
you don't have to.
You can still use an alias, which is great.
Okay, so if you can still use the alias, that's great. But I think the big thing that they're kind of focusing on here is trying to get the organization a little bit better. Like you said, like I had the same problem. I did a iPhone versus Galaxy speed test, which, by the way, was a terrible idea. But a bunch of people were, kind of like calling me out, saying, "Hey, there's different screen resolutions," and I had to continuously like reply every like hour or so, like, "No, they're not. It was run off screen. It doesn't matter." So that's probably one of the biggest things. But what do you think about the Google Plus integration? Because I know you've been having a lot of issues with Google Plus, trying to get it all worked out and connected and all that kind of stuff.
I find Google Plus extremely difficult to use. And part of the reason is that I have multiple YouTube channels, which is something that you don't really deal with. And I have, of course, not only all the Gmail accounts that go with all those YouTube accounts because of that horrible one-to-one relationship that they forced us to maintain for all that time, but also just because I have, personal Gmail this and legacy and work Gmail that and just random legacy Gmail accounts. So for me, the difficulty I had with it is I found it kind of confusing. I find the functionality just isn't as simple as things I'm used to. I mean, I'm a little bit old school. Like, what's your ICQ number? ASL, that kind of old school junk, right? So to me, when I was searching for Austin Evans, trying to add you to Google Plus to a circle, and every Austin Evans under the sun except you comes up, and then I have to go into Gmail and then add you by email there and invite you. I'm just kind of sitting here going, you got to be kidding me. It's not that elegant yet, and that's frustrating. And I haven't really invested the time into figuring it out because I was just kind of playing that waiting game where it's like, maybe I can just put this off and I won't have to do it. And maybe Google will just fix YouTube at some point. But you can see that this has been in the works for a long time, based on things like the fact that they're giving us, that they've never fixed the inbox, which is a terrible piece of garbage. They've taken away functionality like being able to see our full list of subscribers. I mean, that was years ago. But now we have that new tab within YouTube, which is actually, I'm just going to load this up on my screen and do a quick screen share here so people who haven't seen it can see it. But there we go. We've got a couple of new windows here. So there's community, where you can see top fans. There's a bunch of videos that aren't uploaded yet, which doesn't really matter. Don't worry. There's creation tools. So they're really finally starting to upgrade it as part of this whole integration thing. So I guess I better just suck it up, or what? Some
interesting stuff that I noticed too is you were talking about how you didn't like that the uploaders' comments weren't featured.
Yeah.
They're going to be putting prioritization on uploader comments and uploaders' friends' comments. So I believe you can make a circle of people. So if you made a circle for like Linus Media Group, my comments, your comments, Edsel's comments, Brandon's comments would all be prioritized. And then you also have additional moderator tools, so you can filter out certain keywords.
And there will also, which will be fantastic. Automated moderation will be great. And then the other thing is the ability to, oh crap, I was going somewhere with this, but oh yeah, right. And finally, the ability to use a single Google Plus account to manage multiple YouTube channels. That's great for me because I do manage multiple channels. But I think the funny thing for me is I can't figure out whether to use Google Plus as myself personally, or to have Linus Tech Tips be kind of the overarching one, or have Linus Media Group be the, I still got to figure out and play around with it, how I want to do it. And it doesn't help that I have a few Google Plus accounts that I sort of half-heartedly created, and I don't know what any of them are linked to, so yeah.
I know. I can tell you, I've got myself set up as a page. I feel like pages on Google Plus makes sense for us. Because you do have those extra features, like you were saying. You can actually create additional YouTube accounts, and then they can all be managed by a page. Don't quote me on this, but I don't believe you can actually do that with a normal profile. It has to be run through a page. So there are advantages to having a page as opposed to a profile. And unlike on Facebook, there, as far as I know, aren't really any disadvantages. Like your content still surfaces the same way.
Right.
It's not like the algorithm is kind of like going against you or anything. So as far as I know, the page definitely does make sense on Google+.
But they could change that algorithm at any time, which they've done a billion times in the past, and so, yeah. So let's move into our next big topic, which is the AMD Mantle API, which they showed off a new graphics card, or 7, or however many graphics cards they showed off while we were there. They talked about, you know, game developer relationships and that kind of stuff. But let's talk Mantle API.
Yes.
This is a huge deal.
Yeah, it was kind of a big surprise for me because obviously we had heard a little bit about it, but when they actually started talking about it, I was like, it kind of really took me aback. I think it's a good step forward because, as you know, you can talk to pretty much any game developer. You know, using DirectX 11 is not. I mean, DirectX is just so.
It's bloated.
Bloated. That's the perfect word. And so, yeah. It's just not the greatest way to get the maximum amount of hardware. Sure, I mean, if you want compatibility with, you know, 1 million graphics cards and everything, yeah, it's going to be great. But do you want to get the maximum performance out of all those graphics cards? Well, it's just not really going to be the correct choice. So Mantle is definitely a step in the right direction, I think.
So here's the challenge. So I had this. This is directly from Chris Roberts. I wanted to discuss Mantle with him because even though most of the Mantle presentation was focused on Battlefield 4, you know, there's going to be other games that are going to support it. So I just basically wanted to hit him up. I was like, dude, why is it that games run so crap on a PC, even if it's a PC optimized game and it was developed for PC first, compared to what they can do on the consoles themselves? And he was saying, well, it has to do with the number of calls, because when you have you know, a 500 oh crap, what was it?
I'm not sure what you're.
Are you talking about the API calls?
No. Okay, you know what? I'll be back in a moment. So you know what? Go.
I can talk about it. Yeah. So one thing that I noticed right away was when they were talking about this, it reminded me of 3DFX's Glide. If that's kind of a throwback,
yeah.
Which was interesting, and people were actually happy to see it go away. So I found it kind of surprised that something like this was coming back. But I expect that AMD is going to push this really heavily with games that they're helping sponsor. So obviously they're behind Star Citizen quite a bit. So Star Citizen is probably going to be developing for Mantle, and I think it's also going to be interesting when they pull things from console. So if someone's developing for console and they want to use these really low-level APIs, with Mantle you'll be able to port over still using that low-level API, which is really interesting, because then if you're able to utilize it, that's awesome. But then again, there's the great part and there's the surprising part. Part of the surprising part is it's going to be hard to get a lot of developers, mainly on the PC side, to utilize this without some type of sponsorship or backing, because when you're developing for this, you're going to also have to develop for those high-level APIs, because not every card is going to be able to use Mantle.
Yeah, specifically non-Nvidia cards are and non-GCN cards for that matter.
Yes. Although on the other side, it does work with all GCN cards, so it's not just the new R7 and R9 series. So that includes, like, you know, 7000 series. So a good chunk of graphics cards will be able to just, you know, they'll flip a switch and Mantle will be able to work. So that is good, I'd say.
It's just an interesting position that they've taken.
Okay, so there we go. So I remember what I was talking about with Chris. So he was saying that depending on the complexity of an object, a computer's GPU is so powerful that it's not necessarily more difficult to render something that's relatively simple or to render something that's 10 times as complicated. That is not actually what's important. What's important is how many draw calls you can actually that you can actually send to the GPU. So there's a CPU bottleneck that exists because of OpenGL or DirectX or any of those higher level APIs that doesn't exist on the consoles. So even though the consoles don't have the PC's capability of rendering these more complex objects so quickly, because we can hit them so many times more frequently, well, we can still draw more, and we can actually make better use of that hardware. And that's aside from being able to make better use of the memory itself and being able to better optimize for the architecture of the GPU itself. So this is the big problem, and that was what Chris talked about a lot, was how many individual calls you can send to the GPU to get an object rendered, because we're wasting that horsepower on the GPU by just rendering these smaller objects or bigger objects, doesn't matter, but being limited to how many you can do, how many requests you can hit it with at a time. So that was to him the huge thing, and I haven't heard any quotes in terms of performance improvements that we're capable of seeing, but with optimization, I mean, we could be looking at, well, you look at how well something runs on a console versus how well something runs on a PC, and imagine that, guys. Imagine if we could actually leverage that additional power. The last thing I want to touch on is I think the timing is really good for this. So AMD came out and said during the conference that this is by request. This isn't something that they're pushing on the game devs like PhysX, for example. This is something that the game devs have been coming to them and saying, we want this. We want to get closer to the metal when we're programming our games.
Especially with the position that they're in, making the hardware for both consoles. That's why game devs are asking for this, so they can port out from both consoles in the same way, which is just
And that's why the timing is excellent, because now you've got two new consoles coming, so the game devs are going to have to be figuring out how to optimize for this GCN architecture anyway. So we've got that happening, and because GCN's been out on PC for almost 2 years now, there's a fairly large install base there as well, which helps to justify the additional expense of, well, adding an additional API as an option. Not only that, but now, okay, maybe now we can move over to other platforms like Linux, Steambox.
So there are a couple things that kind of jumped out at me about Mantle. One of them is like you were saying earlier, one of the bigger advantages is that it allows games to take better advantage of the hardware, and more specifically, it's going to make it easier for games to take advantage of more CPU cores, which, amazingly enough, AMD, they kind of have been shipping a lot of CPU cores lately.
Yeah.
So that's actually kind of could be a little interesting kind of to come back, because obviously the consoles are 8-core. The higher end FX stuff is 8-core. I'm sure we'll probably be seeing 8-core APUs within, eventually. So that's definitely one thing. For Mantle, for me, I think a big thing is that it really is going to kind of try to bridge that gap between consoles and PCs. Obviously, we'll have to see, like you said, performance and all that kind of stuff, but it wouldn't surprise me if Mantle really isn't actually that difficult to kind of develop for, because if you're already doing it for consoles, perhaps if Mantle is similar to the way consoles work, and that kind of seems to be the way things are, it might not actually be that difficult for a developer to say, hey, yeah, we're going to go ahead and support Mantle, and it'll just magically make everything better and awesome and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, the big concern I have is we're splitting developer resources, so I think Glide is a great example of why we moved away from that in the past, and are we moving towards even more fragmentation? I mean, a couple of years from now, do we see Nvidia introduce their own thing? Now all of a sudden, do game developers have to support OpenGL, Direct3D, Mantle, and some kind of theoretical Nvidia one? And do we see
and that's where it gets messy, but then they have the nice, very solid advantage of having those consoles.
Is the solution to just abandon Direct3D at that point?
Ooh. That's like the nuclear option. I don't know, man. That's kind of tough.
It's a good way of saying it, the nuclear option.
That's the scary one. I mean, from an end user's perspective, if it's well implemented, Mantle's going to be as simple as, like in Valve games, where you can just drop down Direct3D, OpenGL, and choose your renderer. Mantle's going to be that simple, but from a developer perspective, I'll be really interested to see how this works out, and if we see weird compatibility glitches, and all of a sudden it becomes yet another bloody thing for end users to diagnose. Oh, I'm using the wrong renderer for this game.
As long as they don't make it the default, it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Well, I think they probably will, as far as because it'll be coming out on some games. I would imagine that they're not just going to ship it and say, oh, by the way, there's this magical thing that makes your game run a million times faster, but we're not actually going to activate it. So, yeah, we'll have to see. I mean...
You know what's funny is we're going to have an EA moment on the show if Battlefield 4 doesn't automatically run on Mantle once it's available. So
I would imagine it would be.
So
that's kind of a big deal for them.
So they showed off a slide that actually did say specifically that Mantle will allow Battlefield 4 to utilize 8 threads, which is extremely exciting, and also that it's only the beginning. I mean, FPS is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to games that EA intends for other developers to run using Frostbite. So, I mean, by the time, it's not even a matter of AMD winning in terms of getting it implemented game by game, but if they can win a couple big engines, then this will be a thing, and it's extremely exciting.
Definitely, yeah, because not only does that have implications for making performance better on AMD-based PCs, but also, hey, you know what? You're going to be building for Frostbite or whatever particular engine. Okay, so I'm going to check a box. Oh, it's going to run on consoles. It's going to run on PC. Obviously, it's not quite that simple, but it all it snowballs. It kind of helps one thing, helps the other thing, helps the other thing. Just kind of improves performance and improves compatibility across the board.
So this was mine and your first time at an AMD event. What were your thoughts? What was your takeaway?
Well, first of all, they had it in Hawaii, which I think was a pretty awesome place. I actually had never been before, so it was a really, really nice place that they had it. As far as the information, I thought it was really interesting. They were very technical and detailed and kind of explained a lot. I think we both had a chance to actually go one-on-one with some people from AMD and kind of answer some of our deep questions about the particulars and all that kind of stuff once the cards come out. But I was really impressed. I thought that first of all, it was a well-organized event. There was plenty for us to see and do and kind of learn about all the new stuff. I liked that demo room. I think they may have seen it in the vlog. Did you show that off? All like the 4K monitors and
4K Eyefinity, which was just like.
What is that, like 12,000? Does like 12K pixels?
That would, that would be effectively 12 times HD.
Which just mind blown.
Running off of two 290Xs. And they were, I mean, it was Dirt 3, but.
The funny thing was, looking at it, they're playing Dirt on it. You could see like the textures where Dirt was clearly nowhere near made for 4K, but because the screens and because the resolution was so astronomically high, like you could look at the text compared to the actual textures, and there was a huge difference. Which obviously, I don't think a lot of developers are really designing for 12K.
Yeah, they're not too worried.
But it was a really cool thing to see just that many pixels. What is actually, that's what, like 24, 25 megapixels being rendered on the fly?
Yeah, it's just redonkulous. Just redonkulous. I mean, when we talk about, a camera being able to process an image like that, we're talking like, it processes the image and then, give it a sec. So they had a few other demos. Let's talk about Real Sound a little bit, because I know, okay, guys, for all of you tuned in, don't touch that dial. We're not going to talk about it for half an hour. Okay? So Real Sound, just as a quick briefer, is basically a programmable, it's the equivalent to what a programmable shader was on the visual side. So it's programmable sound built into the GPU so that game devs can look at the resources that they have available to them and know that they're going to be able to program in more advanced audio effects. Now, they had a demo that they were running in that demo room, which is what reminded me of Real Sound, because otherwise it really wasn't on the top of my mind, because it's only going to be supported on a couple of the upcoming GPUs even. So Real Sound is basically a way of turning sound into more of a physics thing, as opposed to running around, the office, banging on things to create sound effects, and then just having a library of sounds that it draws upon in a given sort of scenario. So like in games where the swords clash, for example, it's going to sound like Clash 1, 2, or 3, or Heavy Clash 1 or 2 kind of thing. So Austin, you heard the Thief demo.
Yes.
Tell me what you think of this new way of implementing, particularly reverberations in the sound.
Yeah, see, that's exactly it. True audio is, typically in a game, it just plays like a quick like MP3 or whatever, and it's very simple. And there are ways of making the sound kind of seem more realistic, like with like reverberations and whatnot when you're in, maybe like a church or whatever.
Or EAX used to be the thing that was pushing that forward, but that just died in a fire when Vista got launched.
Yeah. So, but one of the main drawbacks is that kind of takes more of CPU, more of a hit on the CPU, and then a lot of times like, we want to hurt the performance of the game just so it sounds a little bit better. But this seems to be a little bit more of a smarter implementation. So with the Thief demo that we both listened to, I could tell a big difference. It was much more like when it was off, it sounded like you said, like everyone was just like talking to the microphone. Like it was very flat. But when they turned it on, you could kind of hear like the audio kind of like echoing a little bit around the room, hear the footsteps. I mean, I don't think it was this massive quantum leap and just like blew my mind, but compared with it on and off, I could tell a major difference. And especially with a game like Thief, which is kind of like, sneaking around and
very sound oriented.
Yeah, absolutely very sound oriented. I think another good game, or a lot of games that could really benefit from this would be like first person shooters, because obviously you're trying to listen for footsteps and whatnot. And if you could kind of hear them in a little bit more detail, kind of maybe figure out where they are in 3D space just a little bit better. I mean, obviously, when you're dealing with headphones, you're not, you don't have a 20 speaker setup to, precisely pinpoint everything.
Yeah.
But I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't know if it was worth, the 45 minutes they spent doing demos on it. I mean, it's cool, but yeah.
Okay, I mean, I agree with you 100%. Better immersiveness, and anything that takes load off the CPU and enhances your gameplay experience, especially with Mantle, which is going to allow the game to take better advantage of the power of your GPU and take better advantage of your CPU by utilizing more cores. Well, why don't we just not waste any of that processing power on sound anymore then? Why don't we just have it dealt with by the graphics card? So the last advantage of Real Sound, in addition to allowing reverberations, which is a lot of calculations, like more like physics sound, the other advantage is that in terms of directionality, it should be able to be much more accurate than something that's relying on something other than the game engine itself to give it directional cues. So the fact that the processing is going on at a much earlier stage in the pipeline is going to mean that cheesy things that I've never liked, I mean, you guys must know this, like USB surround sound dongles and surround headphones. Guys, if you're longtime viewers, I'm not real enthusiastic about them. I mean, Austin, do you feel the same way? Or?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So this sounds like a much better way to do that. So we have a little thing that we do called Twitter Blitz, and I'd love for you to participate. So I'm going to read out Twitter questions that are actually intended for you, and I'd love you to hit the audience with the answers as fast as you possibly can. That's the whole objective. All right.
All right, let's do it.
Will BlackBerry be just a company that we used to know, or will they make a comeback?
They will probably fade out. I don't think they'll totally go out of business because they still do have a pretty strong hold on the enterprise, and it sounds like they're going to be bought. But as far as people like us being able to buy them, yeah, I think that's about done.
What do you think of the Note 3?
I haven't been able to really try it yet.
Well, you were hands-on. I was there.
Hands-on.
I saw you touch it.
Somewhat, although that actually didn't happen, so shh. I think the Note 3 it was hilariously big compared to the iPhone because I've been using the 5S the last couple of days. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I missed the giant battery and the giant screen of the Note 2, so
all right.
Looking forward to getting myself a Note 3.
Someone's building a system. What CPU and graphics card for gaming?
What? That's like, what kind of money are they spending? I don't know.
Exactly. That's the correct answer. Here we go. Someone's asking about unreleased stuff. What do you think of flexible displays for phones and tablets?
I think it'll be cool, but not in the way a lot of people think. You're not going to have a phone and you just bend it. What it's going to be more like is that instead of having the display being square, imagine that the side of the phone, it kind of like tapers down and the screen follows the taper. So there was actually a shot, I think, of a CES a couple years ago where Samsung showed this off, where it's a normal screen from the front, but when you look at it from the side, the screen just keeps on going all the way and wraps over the edge. I think that's where the flexible display is going to kind of come more in handy. We're not just going to, your screen, your phone is just not going to be like a piece of plastic or something.
Unless you have a Galaxy S4.
Oh.
Hey-oh!
Okay, you win. Never mind.
YouTube have also discontinued video responses. How do you feel about that? I'm going to jump in. I'm going to say I don't care. Go ahead.
I'm right there with you. I mean,
All right.
Didn't they say something about like how the video responses were like clicked on like 1 in every 2 million videos?
Yeah,
just some like
stupid number.
thing. Yeah, I don't care.
Thoughts on YouTube adding a music library for their content creators?
It's good because I'm tired of hearing the same iMovie music in every single video on YouTube. But I'm sure I'll get tired of this music as well.
just gonna say, we're
it's
just gonna
in the
hear
right direction. I'm glad that.
Does your camera still work? This is from the vlog when your camera got soaked.
Oh yeah. It's weather sealed. It was all good. We were just running out to the rain because it's Hawaii and it rains like every 10 minutes. Yeah, it's all good.
Here's a great question. Scott Horton asks, do you think Mantle will help with emulating the next-gen consoles? Because that's been a thing where you had to have a PC that was 10 times more powerful than a PlayStation 1 in order to emulate PS1 hardware. Do you think Mantle will make a big difference to that?
Ooh, that's tough. I mean,
Ooh, that's a good question.
Theoretically, you could kind of take a look back at like the original Xbox, which was similarly based to normal PC hardware. Just because it's based on the same hardware doesn't necessarily mean that it would be able to be emulated, as far as I know. I mean, I don't think it would be a bad thing.
But if it's based on the same hardware and the same API and potentially runs on the same graphics architecture.
It's not really emulation.
Yeah.
They're both x86.
Yeah. So
It's not.
yeah.
I doubt that you'll be able to just like load a game up. The software is still gonna. I strongly believe is gonna be very much locked down. The operating system, as far as like how you be able to, get the Xbox One operating system, PS4. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I don't think it's just gonna be open season to just throw PS4 and Xbox One games on your system anytime soon.
Valid response, sir. Favorite retro and non-retro game? Go.
Oh, okay. Retro. Can I say Gran Turismo? Does that count as retro?
Oh, come on. You're so young, dude. How old are you?
Dude, that's like retro for me. I played that when I was like 4 or 5. And then favorite non-retro game? Actually, I'd probably have to say Metro Last Light. As far as like games I've played recently,
Okay.
I really, really enjoyed that.
All right. Last one, and this is from some jackass that I hate that guy. He says, "You're not going to tell anyone what happened in Hawaii, right? We made a pact." And this is from Paul Hardware on Twitter.
Yeah, no comment on that. There was an NDA signed that evening that not supposed to talk about this. So no, it didn't happen. Paul, I'm sorry, but please don't talk about this anymore. Okay? Just no.
Yeah, it was super homo. So
Basically.
yeah, like full homo. Okay, so
Let's talk about it. Did you sign the pact, or did you just like ghost pen?
I signed the pact, man. I signed that pact.
Okay.
We all signed the pact, and the fact that Paul's even talking about it, like he's opening himself up to like some serious legal ramifications.
Okay.
Because part of the pact was to not talk. You don't talk about Fight
First
Club.
2 rules.
First 2 rules
But the
of the
first 2
pact.
rules inherently teach you to break rules.
I don't care.
Oh.
Well, no.
You weren't. You don't know. You don't know.
I'm just saying.
You don't know how homo it was. Let me put it this way. It's almost as homo as when we spend time together.
Wow. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, it's intense homo.
Holy cow.
So anyway, enough talking about homo. Austin, if you want to, please plug your stuff, because if a few people don't... Okay, that was... Did I violate the pact?
I think it did.
Okay, dude, talk up your YouTube, talk up your Twitter. I want our live viewers to know how awesome you are. Go subscribe to you and get that
This is the
done.
greatest segue ever. Thank you. So if you want stuff that has videos that have absolutely nothing to do with what we just talked about, kinds of tech stuff, you guys can check me out on YouTube, youtube.com/Austin Evans. I swear this just forget about this last bit. Again, it's nothing to do. There are no videos of that anywhere on YouTube, so don't think to look. But if you want to check my channel out for maybe other stuff that doesn't include Paul and Linus, you can do that. So youtube.com/AustinEd.
All right, cool. And guys, just another reminder is Austin and I are doing a collaborative iPhone 5C giveaway. So make sure that you're subscribed to both of us so you'll have a chance to win one of 2 iPhone 5C phones. We are giving away 2 phones. All right, thank you, Austin. You've been a fantastic guest.
There's still a week left on that too, so
yes,
plenty of time to get in on it.
Lots of time. So thank you very much, and we'd love to have you on the show again. And it was a real pleasure meeting you in person for the first time, man.
Right on, man. Hey, thanks for having me, and I will catch you later.
All right, take care.
See ya.
All right, so let's switch back to our no guest. And actually, you know what? I'd love to make this a moment to thank our sponsors. So guys, this is actually the last show in our current deal with our RazorCom sponsorship. So if you haven't downloaded RazorComs yet, you haven't tried it out yet, it's still in beta, but it is the way to communicate with your gaming buddies over voice chat that really has gamer-centric features, doesn't have that Skype bug that does still allow people to find your IP, which is a real problem. And it has an overlay that makes it so it doesn't boot you out of your games when people call and kills you and stuff like that. So guys, do check it out. It helps us out a lot. And as one big last push, use that bit.ly link right there. It makes us look real good to our sponsors when you guys do download the software and try it out. Next up,
for guys who haven't been on in a long time, there's a really big patch recently, which fixed a bunch of stuff and a bunch of UI changes and all that.
Like just just to be real clear about it, guys, we were paid to have the show sponsored and to do our live callers with comms, but the big part of the reason for that was we were going to use it anyway because Slick legit uses it.
Yeah.
With his gaming group.
I do.
And so we didn't just randomly choose something and just take money from someone to do this. So that's a big part of why that happened. All right, so let's move on to our next sponsor, which is Squarespace. So Squarespace is the easy way to create a beautiful website for yourself. In fact, I'm going to fire up the linusmediagroup.com website, which can be accessed whether it's on your notebook or desktop or phone or tablet or whatever else. There are over 20 profiles. Oh, okay, thank you for changing that for me. There are over 20 profiles are able to adapt to different screen sizes, different ways of accessing them. You can dynamically change it apart. The hosting is included, and in fact, if you buy one of their full year accounts, then they will even throw in a domain for you for free. So there's a lot of different ways that you can get your site looking exactly how you want it, whether it's a blog or whether it's a little store. In fact, there's a back end that's built in, so you can actually create your own store online using it. If you use offer code Linus9, so that is the specific one for September, they're actually doing a special promotion, so 20% off for your for a free trial, and to get 20% off on your first purchase, as opposed to 10% off, which is what they usually do. Then go over and check that out. Squarespace.com, Linus8. The last thing is, guys, this is not just for noobs. If you want to dive into the CSS and HTML, they do have an advanced mode. So while it's simple enough that Edsel or I can work on it, it's not the kind of thing that Slick's just going to get frustrated and throw his keyboard and mouse at the screen and walk away from. So
maybe just mouse.
Maybe just a mouse.
So like my keyboards.
So that's Squarespace. And next up we got Hotspot Shield, and this is going to be Slick's first attempt at doing a sponsor read. So you got 30 seconds, which is our commitment. So
I think you went a lot longer than 30 seconds. But anyways, Hotspot Shield is a really easy to set up VPN, and you might be wondering what the heck a VPN is and why you might want one. So in the wake of all the NSA stuff, it's a way to protect what you're doing on the internet.
And it's not perfect.
It's
to be clear, like we're not just trying to like sell you Hotspot Shield and it fixes everything.
No.
But it's better than nothing.
It's not perfect, and you can see through it, but it's really difficult, and it's just a really simple way to pretty easily mask what you're doing and also allow you to get around certain things. So say Linus is like, oh, I'm going to block Google at work because I'm a big jerk and don't understand how media companies work. He wouldn't do that, but if he did, I could install Hotspot Shield on, say, my phone or my laptop or whatever, and then get around that. So say you're in a situation where you have free Wi-Fi, but you really need to access your email, and it's actually really freaking important. You can have Hotspot Shield up, access your email, and
Your email or anything else you might want to access,
or anything
for
else
that matter.
you might want to access. Yeah, so it's good for security. It's good for getting around certain bits of security.
And regional locks as well. So things
Regional
like if you
locks.
want to access American Netflix, and you're not located in the U.S., that can help you with that. It will slow down your connection speed, to be clear, because remember, the traffic is actually being completely rerouted. That's how it works.
Yeah, because it's a VPN, all your network traffic is going through a different computer before it goes and does what it's actually supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so Hotspot Shield is actually offering 20% off elite prices using the code Linus. So you can check out the bit.ly down there, bit.ly/HSshare, and you guys can check that out. And again, so huge thanks to Razer Comms, Squarespace, and Hotspot Shield for making the WAN show possible for you guys. We ran it for a long time just with us basically not getting paid at all, just because we wanted to do this content, and having sponsors helps us to continue to make it better, invest in more equipment, and just keep making the show better for you guys. In fact, I mean, our audio mixer's this big now. We're still learning how to use it, which is why you hear that hiss right now. But having sponsors is really going to help us continue to develop not only this show, but more shows. I haven't really talked about this much yet, but we are going to, the masses have spoken. You guys want the WAN show, you want a long format show, we're going to keep doing that, but we're also going to be adding some more targeted, focused, shorter shows throughout the week. And I haven't talked to you about this yet, but I think they're going to end up on Tech Quickie.
Okay.
I think that'll make sense. So Tech Quickie will be mostly fast as possible, and then either daily or 3 times a week or whatever we decide on updates for certain little news items that we keep very short.
So for instance, we could have covered all the individual Steam updates, which would have actually been really nice.
And much more timely, and given you guys a reason to get your news from us as opposed to a reason to just hear us sort of wax philosophical about what it all means.
Yeah.
Speaking of waxing philosophical about what it all means, let's get into the Steam announcement. So number 1, that segue, right?
That was you've got some pretty epic segues.
Thank you. SteamOS. Boom, big head explosion. So go.
This one was kind of insane. I actually was not expecting this one at all. The other 2, I guessed both of them, but this one was kind of out of left field.
Well, okay,
at least.
we kind of saw SteamOS coming because we were expecting Steam Box to have some kind of Steamy customized OS.
I just expected it to be a custom version of Ubuntu, not its own thing.
And I expected it to be somewhat closed.
Yeah.
I expected Steam Box to be a Steam Box, and you didn't build your own Steam Box. Maybe they partnered with others to build Steam Boxes, but I thought it was going to be pretty hardcore lockdown.
But that got completely obliterated.
Oh no!
You can download the raw source code for this if you want and change it in any way you want. They do not care.
Which is amazing.
They even said that there's actually I'm not going to jump to that quite yet, but there's a ton of cool stuff. So it's on Linux, and I know a ton of you in the audience that haven't read up on this right now are going, oh, so I can't play any of my games. Because that's totally wrong, because if you have your desktop PC, which I'm assuming most of you already have, you can stream Shield style your Windows games over to your Steam box that is running on the TV.
Which is amazing.
That's
so
perfect.
We could, okay, why do people like me say, look, I'm not interested in Linux? Because
it's too complicated, and it can't play the games that you want to play.
It's not that complicated. I have used Ubuntu a little bit. It's too complicated for some
people.
Okay, but the fact that you can't game on it, it's just the stupidest thing ever from my perspective. Is look, I want the machine that is the all-rounder, that does everything reasonably well, and that's Windows right now. The fact that you can stream games, look at it this way. Nvidia has invested heavily in this game streaming technology, which is interesting from a cloud gaming perspective, but we're years and years away from that being feasible. But from a local streaming perspective is actually much more relevant to me, and Nvidia has shown already that they can do this over wireless. There is no reason I would want to run my Steambox wirelessly. If I wire up my house with 10 gigabit, which is going to come eventually to consumer grade prices, all of a sudden, holy crap, my Windows box lives in a closet. My Windows home server is now my Windows home server, and every other machine in the house could be running Linux, and I could game to my heart's content.
I was even going to say, this would be really interesting, because if you had, say you're a dad, and you still want to have your beast computer because you're going to do other stuff like video editing or whatever, but then you've got your kids that are just going to game, you could have like a central beast computer instead of building beast computers for each one of your kids, and then just give them Steam boxes.
Which is just amazing. I mean, this is, remember when Nvidia first announced Grid, this is exactly what I was talking about.
Yep.
Personal cloud compute.
And that's awesome.
As opposed to personal cloud storage, which is fascinating and all that. And WDD has a new product coming that we're going to check out that apparently makes it much simpler.
Cool.
But personal cloud compute is
So
just...
cool.
I'm so excited about this. And I mean, you know what? Kudos to Valve for taking us in this direction. This is such a big deal because when they talked about supporting Linux in the longer term, I went, yeah, that's fascinating. We can run Portal on Linux or whatever and this big performance hit. Yeah. But now, all of a sudden, whoa, boom, Mantle hits us this week. Porting to different OSs. We're not going to rely on necessarily on Direct3D or OpenGL anymore. Boom. And then the fact that now we're going to be able to run our games using streaming from a separate computer on Linux.
So beast. And, like, there's a couple other announcements, even aside all of that insane awesomeness that you grab right away. Stuff like my little local co-op backdoor thing.
Yes.
Not going to work.
Okay, right. With the game sharing.
Yeah.
But you could, so even though you couldn't like play against each other, what you could do is you could have a Steam box in the living room and you could share your library with a separate account because Steam still won't support multiple logins of the same person in different locations. And that's what a great solution that is, right?
Yeah. So I will have 2 accounts now. I will have my account that I don't really buy anything on, which is my Steam box account, and I'll have my main desktop account, and I'll just share everything with that account, and that's totally fine. I just can't play games concurrently, so I can take turns. So if I had a buddy over and he wanted to play on my Steambox computer, we couldn't play the same game, but as long as we take turns playing different games, it's totally fine.
Play on the same time. Oh man,
that's great.
And I'd be interested to see if they had the capability to add multiple licenses of a game to a single Steam account.
That would be really interesting.
That's actually not a bad idea. If anyone from Valve is watching, I'd actually like to see that.
That ties in really well with their family options.
Yes.
So they have a family options thing where you can hide certain games from other people.
Based on ESRB ratings or preference.
So Hotline Miami, which is a crazy good game, but I would never let anyone under the recommended age play because it's nuts. Like this is like GTA style where you don't want little kids playing this game. Awesome game. Dad might own it. Doesn't want to share it with his kid, he can now hide it. That's brilliant. But yeah, that could tie in with the multiple licenses thing. Yeah,
that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so Steam announcement number 2. I guess we kind of talked about it a fair bit. So Steam machines.
It's
kind of tied into the first one in a big way.
To be kind of blunt, it's not super interesting because we all knew this was coming.
Yeah.
We all knew this was going to be one of these.
OMG, things. Valve's going to have a console. Okay, yes, got it.
Valve's
going to have a console. Okay, fine.
For interesting things to bring up, they're going to be shipping 300 prototypes of it this year, so sometimes within 2020 maybe. But they'll be shipping 300 prototypes to people that have completed the quest. The quest is basically stuff that you've probably already done, plus play a big picture game with a controller.
Yeah.
There's going to be 30 of these prototypes that are given to people that are big contributors to the community, probably people that have made things that go up on the market, but then 270 of them will be completely randomly selected out of people that have completed that quest. So if you check out store.steampower.com/livingroom/Steam machines, you can see everything you have to complete for that quest, which is interesting. And the non-prototype versions are supposed to be available sometime in 2014, so I'm expecting somewhere around 2030. I'm wondering how Valve Time is going to play into all of this, actually, because they're putting out fairly solid release dates.
I mean, to me, Steam machines basically sounds like Windows machines. Like, it's basically just another way of saying it's a computer that will have hardware in it that's going to run the SteamOS. And I think that particularly when you look at a community like Steam, we're going to see a lot of DIY.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of DIY Steam machines as opposed to, like, I think it's going to be a lot like the Hackintosh community, where people don't buy a Hackintosh. What they do is they head over to Tony Mac x86 or whatever that site is. That's awesome, by the way. If you ever want to build a Hackintosh, just go there. It's like done for you. Buy the hardware, build it themselves, and it's a very rewarding experience. And you're going to get better performance for your dollar and all those great things that go along with that. That is where things are going to get real.
They've actually said, so there's going to be a Valve version, and the Valve version is going to be highly customizable, and you can build your own, and that will obviously be highly customizable. But then the ones built by other people will be focused around different metrics, so
Right.
size, price,
Yeah.
thermal output, sound, stuff like that.
And with the free OS, we're going to have a lot of flexibility, and particularly for DIY guys, we're going to see a bigger price disparity
Yeah.
between DIY and off the shelf. Because with Windows, the big manufacturers like Acer or Lenovo are getting massive discounts on the software. Whereas when you build one yourself, you're paying full retail.
Yeah.
So even though you're able to build your PC for slightly cheaper, you paid that inflated margin to Microsoft for a standalone OS. Whereas now, when both OSs are free, now that decreases our price even more by a much larger margin. So I'm really excited about DIY.
It's a really good point, yeah.
Steam machines or whatever they want to call them.
I'm so excited because I've wanted to build a small form factor computer for a while, but never had that big of a reason.
Steam announcement 3.
Boom.
The Steam controller. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna fire this up for you guys because you're gonna need to see it to believe it for this one.
Yeah.
A new way to play your entire Steam library from the sofa. So there's a dog and a cat, they're cardboard cutouts. Boom. There it is.
I legitimately thought this was the back, especially actually because of where your hand goes kind of works and how it looks. But yeah, I'm gonna keep letting that sink in. So my first conclusion, and I find it funny because if you scroll up to where it shows the home theater,
Okay, here, sorry, I'm not on my screen anymore. Yeah, go ahead.
they have Civ 5 on screen, which I
Yeah.
thought was hilarious because before I noticed that, I was like, the only game I really think it's like you can use this controller to play Civ 5. Then they had Civ 5 on the screen. I was like, oh, someone thought of that.
Okay, so why don't we start with some of the specs because that's really important. It's got 16 total buttons. So the trackpads themselves are buttons. The touchscreen in the middle has 4 buttons at the corners. There's a few look more like navigational buttons under the screen itself. Actually, here I'm gonna fire that up again for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about. And the real killer app here is these touchpads. So there's the touchscreen here, and then the touch pads here and here that have what Valve is calling the most advanced haptic feedback that we've yet seen in a consumer device. So to be clear, haptic feedback, if you ever used like a Samsung Galaxy Tab 10.1, the original one, where it just kind of like felt like a big piece of poo every time you touched it, and it kind of went like when you touched it, and it felt like it was falling apart. Valve's going for not that. They're going for something that actually will give you tactile feedback about not just where your fingers are on the pad, and the curvature will help with that as well, but also things like acceleration, boundaries, threshold, speed, textures, action confirmations, or any other events. They're saying these are so advanced that they're basically speakers, and as a little trick, you could actually have them play music or make sound effects if you really wanted to. Now, what I noticed immediately, because this was the one that actually out of all the Steam announcements, this was the one where I not only read the Valve page,
But you read the...
and another article, but I went and found like a dozen articles because I was like, what are people saying about this? I read hundreds of user comments. I actually spent a lot of time this morning looking at this, and here's what I found. User comments, people are either saying it's bullshit, it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen, or they're saying, hold on, give this a chance, it's Valve, they haven't done wrong by us too many times in the past. And then there's like the one guy in 100 who's stoked on it, and then professional writers basically all opted to say nothing.
Yeah.
I couldn't find anyone who gave an opinion on it, and I didn't read every article, but they were all just like, here's Valve's press release. And they just said nothing, which to me is a big indicator that they're real skeptical about this. But they don't want to be the guy that said it was balls, and then it turns out to be amazing.
I'm going to actually bounce back. I made the comment about Civ 5 earlier, but after typing that in, and I have it here being like, you're only really going to be able to play Civ 5. But after typing that in, depending on how good the touchpads are, actually was playing GTA 5 last night, and I noticed the only way I can aim at people is by pulling the left trigger repeatedly, which will make him automatically point at people. Because without that, I'm like, I'm wondering, can I actually be more accurate with a touchpad that's super, super good?
Versus, I mean, for me, a big problem with joysticks is that every game under the sun seems to have the calibration a little bit differently, and yet, and the response of them compared to something like force feedback actually isn't that great.
No.
So if this, between the curvature and the haptic feedback, like if it gets more intense towards the outer edges for a racing game, if we're talking almost like fake force feedback.
And looking at the style of these touchpads, actually one thing I was thinking about is if one of them was a wheel in a racing game, you could spin it as if it was a wheel. So there's actually...
I don't see that being practical.
But you probably
but you
could.
Maybe could.
And like it's just... And how moddable they are. They're incredibly moddable.
Yeah, they're coming out and saying they want it to be hackable.
Oh yeah.
Right up front.
Yeah. So with it being Valve, with it being this moddable, because the mod community is going to go crazy and make this thing nuts, maybe they can pull it off.
Does it replace a keyboard and mouse? No, of course not.
But they don't say it.
But you can plug that into your Steam box and use a Couchmaster anyway. Does it replace a keyboard? No, of course not. But you could still have something like a little wireless keyboard. Where is ours? I think it's like lost. You could have a little wireless keyboard with a little trackball on it. Anyway, to me, I see this not even necessarily as a replacement for something like an Xbox 360 controller, which is like the finest controller ever made, other than the D-pad is kind of a pile of poo. It's not a replacement. It's more like, here's another way.
And it will open the doors. One thing
it's a compatibility tool.
Yeah, I don't think they wanted to make another like dual thumbstick with the D-pad and 4 buttons and 2 thingies. Like, they didn't want to recreate something that everyone has made under the sun.
But with that said, before I'd seen any pictures and before I'd read any articles, the first word out of my mouth was retarded when I heard about it. And I kind of went, well, are they being different for the sake of being different? And then I kind of let myself sort of calm down. And
honestly, I haven't even read any of the extra articles on it. This is all just stuff I noticed while looking through theirs.
Okay.
But it's going to enable, like, I would never play Civ 5 with the default controller, but I would play Civ 5 with this. I wouldn't want to play a lot of simulation games.
I mean, it's kind of like when Warcraft 2 came out on PlayStation. Where it's like ridiculous. Whereas this might bridge the gap.
Yep. And then a lot of simulation games, like especially freaking Surgeon Simulator, like that makes so much more sense.
Right.
Than with like it's interesting. So I think it's going to open a lot of doors to other things. And then stuff like shooters with the right modding community behind it, maybe you can be way more accurate, because I have a serious problem with controllers right now.
Yeah.
So maybe it will help, and maybe it'll help bridge the gap between PC gamers into the living room a little bit more, because the second I touch a controller, I'm like, what is this? I don't know what I'm doing.
All right, someone's hitting me pretty hard in the Twitch chat there. Linus, what does he say? Something like, stop avoiding the question. Do you think it will be good? And I'm going to say, based on the one person I found on Twitter who has tried an early version of it, so Lord Chris Remo on Twitter, who says, I tried it, the button configuration was different at the time, but the cursor pads worked amazingly well. I don't know who this guy is, never talked to him, no idea why he has, 13,000 followers on Twitter or whatever else, but he says, yes, the haptic feedback makes it feel like you're actually operating a real physically mechanical device, not just a touch screen.
Wow.
If I found someone who tried an early sample and is saying that about it, if I inherently trust Valve, which I kind of do, you know what? Here, I'll go ahead and say it. I'll say there's going to be a learning curve, because I think we can all agree on that, but it's going to be usable.
It's definitely, it's like, I don't even think you can debate if it'll be usable or not.
No, I would have questioned it at the beginning.
For Civ 5 and other simulation games, it'll obviously be better than, in my opinion, than a controller with thumbsticks. But I think it'll be, depending on how good those touchpads are, and if you take his word for all the merit it could be taken for,
I have no idea.
It could be great, but it's the touchpad. Touchpads scare me. I'm a big advocate of overuse of touchpads are ridiculous, because when you go to the store and you have to use the debit machine and you only have to select what account you want to use with the freaking touchpad, and it's like, why do I have to do this? It's like, that's
unnecessary
overuse.
touch sucks. but if they've done it well, then great. So I want to move on to, this is actually one of our, we're running out of time here, but I feel like this is probably going to be our last big topic this week. Bittorrent has a legit reason for existing that goes beyond like Linux distros, which is obviously the joke that pirates make, is why do you have uTorrent on your computer? Because I download Linux distros. The art is the cache. So this is an article on VentureBeat. The art is the cache register. Bittorrent releases bundles in alpha. So you guys should definitely check out the full article, but I'm just going to go back to my notes here really quick. So what bundles will do is they will bundle content and a payment system. Now, we're not talking payment system like cash money necessarily. We're talking about some kind of content. It could be. We're talking some kind of content, whether it's music or movies or like, I mean, honestly, I saw this and I've been thinking about doing like a vlog series or like a behind the scenes series, hiring like a dedicated guy to just do that around here for a while. But I don't necessarily want that everywhere. And I don't want, and I've promised my viewers that we are not going to move to a pay model. So I've done those things.
Make it like a
So, okay, hold on. So bundles could contain some kind of content that you pay for, but not necessarily with cash. So here are some suggestions. Maybe you pay for it with a like, a tweet, an email address, or newsletter sign up. Holy crap, that's amazing. Maybe you pay for it by seeding, although I don't know how that could be enforced. But all of a sudden, there's flexibility to the payment that comes along with content. It's been being said for years that the problem is not
distribution.
Yes, go. Okay, you talk about it.
The problem is Steam has said this a lot because people have been seeing piracy rates go down as their games go on Steam instead of being their own launcher. Like if you have to download the executable and install it itself, your piracy rates are going to be higher than if it's on Steam. Because people see it on Steam and they're like, oh, that's easy. It's going to work all the time. I don't have to deal with all these problems. But then it's also not DRM down my throat and absolutely ridiculous the whole time. Yeah. So I'll just buy it on, there's still DRM on Steam, but it's much easier to deal with. So I'll just get it on Steam. So Gabe Newell's been saying distribution is a problem forever. Everyone knows that the main reason things are pirated is because they're so freaking hard to get. So like, it's
debatable.
Annoying. It's well, a large part of the
a reason that things are pirated.
A large part of the reason.
A reason. Let's say a reason.
I'm still saying
we can. Okay, well, I will say a reason because I don't necessarily agree with him.
Well, as music has become easier to get, piracy rates have massively gone down.
That's true.
So it's a large part.
But piracy still exists.
Yeah.
So let's say a reason.
I'm still saying large.
Until piracy is gone, we can't empirically determine.
I'm not saying the reason. I'm saying a large part of.
How do we know? We can't. We can't.
The percentage has gone down by so much.
Okay, until we know how much piracy there actually is exactly, we won't know.
You can
guess, but you won't know for sure.
You can get pretty freaking close.
We disagree, but anyway. It'll help.
Yes.
Okay, artists are going to love this because instead of their music, like if they kind of go, okay, people are going to download things off of torrents anyway, and if they happen to take that philosophy and go, okay, well then what I'll do is I'll include, in order to, I'll just seed it out there myself, and as long as you follow me on Twitter, then I'm down. Then I'm down. Go ahead, have the song then.
Especially musicians lately are releasing their albums for free anyways because they find no point because not enough people are buying them, especially when they're smaller musicians.
So if you released a new version of it every once in a while that requires people to tweet about your upcoming concert or to link on your Facebook to their merchandise store, holy crap.
That helps them
That's
more.
The future.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. So Madonna, Linkin Park, Grateful Dead drummer Mickey Hart already using it. Tim Ferriss says it drove an additional 880,000 Amazon impressions for his book. In his experience, there is no faster method for getting multimedia content to the fans. This is just totally game-changing, and I think goes a long way towards legitimizing BitTorrent.
Yeah, that's because for the longest time, BitTorrent's been like, we're not actually bad.
Really, we're not just for pirating, but we can't tell you what else we're for.
we're a tool. Just people are.
There's like 4 dudes that released their albums on it. Like you could probably also find them on like YouTube or whatever, a billion other places. So this is amazing.
And it's really good for them.
I think this week, rather than trying to go really in depth into some of the other content that we have, I think we call that it for our major topics. I want to blitz through a couple here. I mean, Blackberry has a potential suitor. I think what was it, $9 billion or something like that. So
$9 per share. I think it's
47 billion. Yeah. Sorry, $9 per share. And so I was talking to Sam Reynolds from VR Zone while I was at the AMD event, and he was saying one of the reasons he thinks it could potentially happen in time is that it is a Canadian interest that's looking at them, and that actually could save months of investigation and analysis and all that. Like if they want foreign investors to come in and own the company, which is traditionally a Canadian company. I mean that I think would make a lot of people feel a lot better about it as well. So that was one of the big things this week, obviously. This is pretty funny. A fake Apple ad says iOS 7 will make your iPhone waterproof, and people fell for it. So the update claimed that iOS 7 will, in an emergency, shut off your phone's power supply and corresponding components to prevent any damage to your iPhone's delicate circuitry. So apparently people expressed their outrage on Twitter. One angry tweeter said, okay, whoever said iOS 7 is waterproof, go F yourself. So that's pretty hilarious. And I quite frankly, I hope no one watching did that, because dude, or doodad, or whoever you are, yeah, had it coming for you. Next up is ASUS ROG Bench. I mean, honestly, we don't have enough benchmarking tools. We really don't, particularly for certain aspects of the system like storage. There's a few, but they're highly synthetic and or they're expensive. Speaking of which, did we get that figured out with FutureMark? Did you hear back from them?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Are we doing it?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, we are going to be testing using the upcoming FutureMark. What is it called? FutureMark 8. So we're going to be using that for our storage testing. I'm extremely excited about their new suite. It looks much more comprehensive than their previous ones. But right now, it wasn't available unless you get the Uber license. So we've worked out a deal with them to get the Uber license. So we're going to be bringing you some of that over the next little bit here. But anyway, this is unrelated to FutureMark. This is the ROG Real Bench. And ASUS has an FAQ that's on rog.asus.com. If you just search for ROG Real Bench free app download, you'll be able to bring that up. Or you can check out the stream doc, which I'll post in the Linus Rambling section of the Linus Tech Tips forum. But they've got an FAQ here that I think really covered all my questions. The second question is, it's ROG Real Bench, so there must be ASUS favoritism, right? And they're like, no. Open source apps, no ASUS bias at all.
I like that it's open source apps.
Love it. Love it. I mean, this is one of the things that I really feel like companies can do to differentiate their products that has nothing to do with the product.
Yeah.
Things like even AI Charge. Have you ever used AI Charge from ASUS?
Yes.
Works on any computer and allows any USB port to charge a tablet. It's like, oh, wow, thank you, ASUS. Now I think of you and I install your app on my computer regardless of what kind of computer it is. That is marketing. That is like awesome marketing.
Because then the first name that'll come to mind when you go to buy something is going to be them.
So if every overclocker starts using ROG Real Bench, like that gets that branding out there. I mean, another example, our sponsor, Razer Comms, make it for everyone. Don't require people to buy a bright green headset. You know, not everyone wants a bright green headset. We get that. We saw your comments on Twitter. We saw your comments in the Twitch chat. Does Razer have a not bright green headset? Yeah, they do. But you know, this one happens to be bright green. But getting that branding out there is huge to me. And there's only a few benchmarks right now, but they're committed to continuing.
And they're taking user submissions for benchmarks. So I know I'm going to submit a few that I already think are good ideas that they could add. And if you guys have some open source benchmarks that you guys would think would be a good idea, submit it and they'll look into it.
And they're keeping it real and up to date. It's x64 only. Because they're like, yeah, well, we just think that you need to get with the times if you're running x86.
And I'm more than okay with
Love it. I mean, that's like AMD's 290X. No analog output. VGA is gone. And I'm not talking the connector is gone. The pins are gone. It's gone. I'm like, good. Because that needs to go away. It's done. Yeah. It's done by VGA. So I'm really excited about that. We'll definitely bring you guys a video in the next little bit once we've had a chance to try it out. Twitch TV no longer automatically archives broadcasts.
That's a bad way.
I actually, yeah, that happened last week to us. I actually spent some time talking to their COO at PAX, and I have a little bit of insight as to why they're doing that. So YouTube has, X number of hours of video uploaded every minute or whatever it works out to, but they transcode it. which, even though it's processing intensive, dramatically reduces the storage requirements on their side. Twitch just goes, here we go, full balls to the walls, 1080p game stream that ran for 14 hours or how, right? Their storage needs were just becoming ridiculous.
Last week I went for 12 hours.
Their storage needs were getting ridiculous as they've continued to explode. And I mean, they got to invest in network infrastructure. They got to invest in processing. They got to invest in security and blah, blah, blah. It's like, look, we bought enough hard drives already. Everyone just calm down. So I totally understand why they're doing that. He didn't tell me at the time that they were planning to implement this, but what he did say is our storage needs are getting ridiculous. We have to do something.
Yeah.
And you can still enable them. They're just not enabled by default, which I think is a really good compromise.
Yeah.
Nvidia has come out and said, you know, we really want to support Linux. They've sent out some tweets. We're all about gaming. We feel gaming is so important. And Linus Torvalds has actually responded. So Nvidia kind of said, look, a 1000-watt PC will not lose to a 200-watt Xbox, even though most PCs aren't running at 1000 watts. And they say they want to support Linux in the wake of Steam, and hopefully they'll be able to leverage Mantle or some kind of Mantle-like technology. It's apparently been confirmed that Mantle is open.
I wasn't, so that's my comments in the document earlier, and when I was talking, I got kind of corrected by YouTube, but I had no idea it was open. I thought it was just AMD.
I thought it was, AMD didn't say it was open during the presentation.
Yeah, I watched the presentation.
So
that's why I was like,
apparently been confirmed now, so I really doubt.
That's really cool.
I doubt Nvidia would be willing to do, well, let's see. Let's see if Nvidia.
They can. A lot of AMD stuff's open. Yeah,
I know,
yeah.
but it's not like Nvidia really focuses on OpenCL.
I know. I'm just saying, like, I'm not surprised that it is that way. I was watching the presentation.
Yeah.
They didn't say it.
So Linus Torvalds has responded to this commitment saying, you know, famously, Linus Torvalds gave the bird to Nvidia and said Nvidia, and I don't have live like bleeping out of stuff, but you know, F you Nvidia, blah blah blah. You don't support us properly, and Nvidia's come out and said, look, we're going to do an open driver.
Well, they've been. It's been publicly known that Nvidia has been the hardest hardware manufacturer for Linux to work with at all.
So he's basically said, look, I'm not willing to issue an apology for that yet. But let's wait and see. Let's give him a chance. And my battery just died, so builds of the week. I guess let's move on. Or do we have any other topics that are? I feel like that's not that important. That's more of like.
I just thought it would be funny.
Yeah, it's fun. Okay.
I should have put it in after.
There's an upcoming movie. You want to cover that while I load up the builds of the week?
It's not really a big deal. I was going to bring it up in after party. I just put it in the wrong section. But there's an upcoming Hollywood film that is based on the Great Quebec maple syrup heist. So it's starring Jason Segel. Or Segel, I'm not actually Segel, yeah, Jason Segel. Yeah, and it's based on the $18 million syrup heist, which is pretty beast. I just wish there was 14 members of the team. Apparently there was 24. So if there's 14, it would be like Ocean's 14 Maple Syrup Edition. But oh well, that's unfortunate. I was really hoping when I was reading through it, I remembered this because it's based on a real event. I was
Where
really
are build logs of the week?
It's in the WAN folder.
WAN folder. Okay,
yeah.
I'll find it.
I was really hoping because I like reread the old news article when they were talking about this massive heist of maple syrup, and I was really hoping it was a team of 14 people, but it was 24, so it's close enough. So I'm calling this movie unofficially Ocean's 24 because I love the Ocean's movies and I love heist movies because I just think they're so cool.
Me too.
They're awesome. So we're gonna hopefully get to the slide soon here.
Yeah, no, I'm ready to rock. I think scene 6 is not the one. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove that. Let's add a screen region. Boom, add the whole screen. And boom, build logs of the week. And well, okay, let's
make it big.
there you go. A little better than that. All right, here we go. From the beginning, liquid cooled fractal by DG.
So this is just fairly self-explanatory. It's just freaking beautiful.
I love that.
It looks so sharp and it looks so clean.
I maintain the D5 is the only pump that matters, and it's ugly as all sin when you don't custom mod it, but this looks great.
Yeah. I've actually seen that quite a bit lately. Yeah.
Yep, it's become very popular. When Bits Power did the first D5 mod kit, I refused to stock it when I was carrying them at NCIX because I was like, this is stupid. No one's going to pay that much to mod their pumps. But what I didn't think about at the time was, well, hold on a second. People are going to have owned D5 pumps for 2 years. They're going to have no reason to upgrade it. They're going to be redoing their loop, and they're spending less than the amount of buying a new pump on just making their old pump look great. And D5s are so reliable. I've been running mine for years.
And with form factors of computers going down, people want smaller cases to go along with it, and you can't really hide them that easily.
Yeah, so you might as well make it look awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of looking awesome, angled fittings, dat white tubing, very, very gorgeous. So that's the Define R4 for those of you who don't already know.
It's just a great looking setup he's got right there.
All right, Ultimate Cooling Machine from Def Boy. Hey, this is the first TJ07 build we've featured on the WAN
I
show.
don't think so. We had the yellow one.
Was that TJ07?
But I think it was. I might be wrong. Maybe that was TJ11.
I think it was TJ10 or
Okay.
TJ11.
Okay, maybe.
So, do you mind if I take point on this one?
Go for it.
Are those hard pipes? Oh my goodness,
This is an amazing build.
beautiful. So,
Wait, sorry, I'm just going to interject one
Yeah.
little thing. Just like always, be sure to check this out on the forum, but this guy especially, because he like stripped the whole case himself. So he has progress shots of like going down to the metal, and it looks awesome. And he's got a really nice camera, so all of his shots look great.
this is amazing. So there's a couple things here. So first of all, that front panel, that stealth front panel looks fantastic. I personally would have left this so that I can have front USB or a front card reader or something. I personally did opt to have that still accessible on mine. I think that's important. This is something I've seen done before, and I actually wanted to do on mine. So this dramatically improves the restrictiveness of the stock grills down here, which they're very, very restrictive. And if you do it right, you can get it curved just right, and it actually looks very, 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 very good. The fact that the case is painted means that he was able to paint the grill so that it matches the case, which is a problem I've seen with some people who have done this mod, where it doesn't match the case anymore. These hard pipes are outstanding. So that's a liquid cooled Rampage 4 with what are these? These look like they must be, oh crap. They're GTX 680s. You can tell from the stacked PCIe
The
plugs.
stream's so long that by the time we get to this part, I forget the components.
Yeah, it's fine. Oh man, dem hard pipes. XSPC is sort of a funny choice because it's more value oriented, but I'm guessing they were a sponsor for the build or something like that.
And it looks really sharp.
It goes
sharp. Along with, he has a very silver, I don't have a shot of his monitors in
Look
this
at
one.
that night shot, man.
Yeah, I had to include that. But he has a very silver-based thing, so it actually kind of works.
I mean, this ties into the discussion you and I were having. Oh wow, there's another one.
There's another one.
Discussion you and I were having about how do you shop for RAM these days, and like by looks.
Yeah.
Dominator Platinums, hands down.
Incredibly good. But the next one, once you jump along,
DCCCD.
this was added because of
Okay.
it's a nice build.
Okay,
But
what's with that fan?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
You're going to be wondering about a few things. The main thing that you should be wondering about is actually that.
Which you gotta
That. Are you confused yet?
this.
This box that goes up here.
Oh well, hold on a second. This box goes all the way up here.
That
Oh,
box.
is that all the wait? What? What is this?
Okay, now that you've seen it and you see where it's shooting out, and do you see there's a cut there and a cut there?
Oh, cool. Is that just cardboard? Or
Now,
something?
well, just click forward.
Fine.
There is his design. So he has built a vent for the basement that can shoot up and then directly flow air over his cards. I had to include this build, but I also had to include the other builds.
Oh, cool. So this is actually, it's funny because this is like a ghetto rig in some ways, because this is a very archaic way of doing GPU water cooling. You can see he's got individual RAM sinks on there for the RAM components. He's got like air cooling sitting over it. Back in the day, we used to use like Antex bot cools for this.
Yeah.
And then he's got individual GPU blocks. I still have two MCW60s that you can easily make custom mounting hardware for anything you want.
Aren't they over there?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're in the pile there. And at some point, I kind of want to do like a dual MCW60 and my original Apogee liquid cooled build.
Cool. That'd be really
just
cool.
for lols. I'd want to redo the mounting hardware and then get it like coated. Get it powder coated by Mountain Mods or something.
That'd be cool.
Although I'm kind of mad at them about my case, but.
Yeah, that's it. But I had to include that guy's build because that vent is just That's so cool.
What a cool build. What a cool idea.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, it's one thing when we let the manufacturers choose for us how to direct airflow or whatever else, but it's a whole other one when we just kind of take matters into our own hands and customize things like that.
Nope, this is how it's going to work. One quick more thing. I think he might be looking up for something, but before we end here, I also want to do another shout out for the Boink and Folding teams. We're doing amazingly well. I don't have the exact numbers on me right now, which Whaler might try and kill me over because he's probably sent them to me. But anyways, they're doing incredibly well, so be sure to sign up on those teams because it's for a good cause.
All right, now I have one last thing for you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and just say this outright, what my motivation is for this. This is LG's G2 product information video. For all intents and purposes, the WAN show is kind of over now, but I would appreciate very much if you guys would stay tuned for the next 3 or 4 minutes. You'll learn a little bit about the LG G2, which is their flagship Android smartphone, and could very well, I mean, Marcus Brownlee covered this pretty well in his video on the phone, but this could very well be very close to what we're going to see as the next Nexus device. So guys, watch the video because I told them, look, okay, yeah, I'll put that video out there for my viewers to see if you can get us a phone so we can make our own video about it, because otherwise we don't really have access to phones very easily. In particular, LG, we've never worked with them in the past, so I figured maybe this is a good way to kick things off. And so guys, if you really don't want to watch it, then tune out. Otherwise, please do check it out here. All right, so if you, wow, 4,000 of you are still here. Thank you. That's actually fantastic because hopefully we can try out some of those features. I actually hadn't watched the video yet, to be perfectly honest. But we were looking at some of those, kind of wondering, okay, well, what are they? I mean, the voice mate thing sounded to me kind of like sexting, but like voice mating.
That's how you got to that. I was like, what are you even talking about? How does that possibly work?
We were like whispering to each other during the video. You know, we were all like, hey, did you see that? Well, that's cool. Things like the audio zoom, I think that would be cool stuff to just kind of try out and find out if it works. So we'd love to get our hands on the phone. Without further ado, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the WAN show this week. I hope you found it to be a fun and enjoyable episode. If you're just tuning in now, or if you tuned in sort of later on in the stream, we always upload the VOD onto YouTube, and we are automatically archiving to Twitch. Still, we have that set now, so you can also check it out there if you don't want to wait for the YouTube upload. But whenever the show doesn't get interrupted, we can get it up on YouTube really, really fast, as long as they don't put any of those 18+ restrictions on the videos of us doing so. Okay, everyone stop asking me.
I get so many messages.
We should just leave this here at the end of every show. So people who miss it can just see this.
Yeah.
And we should just leave it streaming. Okay, guys, that's it. Show's over. We're just going to leave that there. So y'all can stop asking us on Twitter. We love your Twitter messages. We just want you to tweet us about something else.
We could actually do that, because technically what we could do is end the stream now so we have the video file finished, then start streaming again, take off the camera stream so it's not pulling from the mic, and just leave the computer do this.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe like temporarily take off Twitch archive.
Peace out, everyone.